Thank you, Pauli. The linkage to open science, well, at least to the title, to the jungle. I studied forest, but I studied actually a Finnish forest, boreal forest, pines and spruce trees. So not so much jungle there. However, linking the title to my presentation, open science in the European context, I should say that it is really a jungle with all the policy papers. So I'm trying to make sense of all the policy papers to you together here now. And so my approach to this presentation was that I'll pick only the ones that are worthwhile, the most important ones. Of course, there are several other papers also, but we don't have that much time here. So moving on. This possibly is the seminal paper on open science. It's the Council of the European Union and their conclusions dating from 2016. It was the time when Netherlands was the president of the EU at that time, and open science was very high on their agenda. And one thing to remember here is that this council they produce a lot of papers, and in many papers they make reference to open science, but this particular paper is only about open science. So in that sense, it is the paper we need to look at. And well, I mean, I have 2 slides about this paper. It has roughly 18 items under 6 different headlines, and I only selected a few points, and I want to make only a few highlights that I see are the most important ones. About this council, it's also called the Competitiveness Council, and from Finland, the representative is from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment. And nonetheless, I mean, just to say that Finland is there among all the other members drafting these papers, and Finland is committed also to these papers. And well, I mean, if we look at the item number 10, it starts with welcoming open access to scientific publication as the option by default for publishing the results of publicly funded research. Well, that's a good start. And then moving on to number 12, I mean, it says that the Council agrees to further promote the mainstreaming of open access to scientific publications by continuing to support a transition to immediate open access as the default by 2020. So immediate open access, that's 100% open access by 2020. So looking at the nature of these papers, they are produced at the EU level together with all the other members. So it would be quite natural that these also would flow down to the national strategies and national priorities, and that's the idea, at least. Of course, I mean, these are not directives, or these are not regulation as such. Again, I mean, it's still something we need to take seriously. And we cannot just disregard these aims. And so, I mean, again, I mean, this paper has a lot of good stuff. This now goes into the research data. They start with underlining that research data originating from publicly funded research projects could be considered as a public good, which is a good start. And then they end up that item number 14 saying, therefore, the underlying principle for the optimal reuse of research data should be as open as possible, as closed as necessary. So they actually echo all the good mantras that have been said already. And not actually backing, going away from them, actually pushing forward in some sense. And so again, great ambition here, and good level of standard for open science. Also, they make reference to fair data principles, which is the current understanding of how things should be. It's fair data as such is a good, let's say, acronym for policymakers. It's kind of like combines everything into one. So very easy to drop as a line, and in some sense not going into the details. So it's kind of like the umbrella term here, and it's very good actually to use. And here they show that they are up to date in some sense, and they understand the let's say the importance of fair data. And also the follow-up, item number 18, they actually call on the stakeholders to take necessary and, if needed, concerted actions to make open science a reality. So here again, the understanding is that we need to do this together. It's very difficult for one member state or one institution or one organization to do it alone. We need good examples, and we need to share those examples, and this is a call for that. Okay, moving onwards, I almost forgot to mention when doing my slides the ESFRI roadmaps. They actually deal about open science in many ways, and open access to research infrastructure is one issue, but more importantly, possibly, is the open data issue. And again, I mean, ESFRI is kind of like a good example where the council conclusions have direct impact. They take the message from the council conclusions directly, and they implement it to their work. So the fair data has been, let's say, has been attached to ESFRI. Possibly would have been in any case, but thanks to council conclusions to which they make reference, they actually are aligned in that way. And ESFRI deals about excellence, and they promote excellence, excellent infrastructures, and in all fields of science and innovation. So it has a big impact also. And when we have this type of forums such as ESFRI's tackling fair data issues, then we know that something is happening for real. Also, they make a reference to data commons, and to my understanding, it's something where data is shared in a unified data repositories, and that are stable and permanent, and they all also follow the fair data principles. Going on to European research area, and notice that ESFRI is actually one part of the priorities here. It's actually where is it? Is it? Well, it's there. One of those. 2B should be, yes, 2B. And European research area is something that's been drafted, and the roadmap they have produced is something to highlight a small number of top priorities in some sense, not to make everything, because that would be impossible, but just to pick the most important priorities, and open science is mentioned as one. And priority number 5 actually deals also about open innovation and innovation in general also. So those are mentioned, and the European research area is also promoting open science in a big way. All these priorities have groups that actually kind of like monitor and go deeper into the topic itself, and the idea is to align policies, national policies, and and to share best examples and best practice. And they produce a lot of reports and recommendations, but the problem is these reports and recommendations are not quite easy to find. They are somewhere on the internet. So we know this is a problem. We would like to change it, and hopefully this year we can start having better communication towards the let's say the other stakeholders and towards the broader audience. And so this is one place to understand that where Europe is actually very much kind of like progressive. Then we have Commission recommendations, and again, I mean, not directives, not regulation as such, but recommendations that usually are taken also very seriously. And they have a recommendation dating all the way to 2012. It's quite old in a modern way when we think we have better understanding nowadays. So 2012 is very old in open science, and so they are making a new update on this. They are renewing this recommendation and possibly also including the modern understanding like fair data and also making a linkage to the public sector information, because there is no reason to keep it separate from research data. The public sector information is like meteorological data and this type of where research institutes produce, and the problems are pretty much the same when talking about research data or public sector information data. So there will be a linkage, possibly. Let's see how the final version looks like. But yes, so just so that you know, there is also on the Commission side recommendations that have impact on this issue. And like I said, the Commission recommendations are also monitored. The follow-ups and reports have been written. At the moment, there are 2 reports on this implementation. The last was put out 2018, last year. I only selected a few comments here, and we are not going to go through all of them, too much text here, but some selected notes only. And this actually underlines the problem where we are at the moment. The member states are very varied and at a very different maturity level in open science, and so it's a very diverse field. And that said, I mean there's very little or none evidence in numbers, and so we have only qualitative indicators and this type of text materials that we can summarize and possibly make conclusions of. So it's not an easy task to make a big picture of the European landscape in some sense. But these recommendations, in a big way, have been let's say, are believed to be valuable and impactful at the European and national level. So that's kind of like the point here, to say that there is a demand for this type of recommendations also, and also, I mean, possibly not good thing to go through all the text here, but many countries are advanced, and then also many countries are not really advancing at all. So that's a big picture, and all the problems have been identified related to rewards and related to fair data, let's say, issues. And well, I mean, again, the problem in making also these reports is the latency. between the giving answers and combining the answers. And so it's every time they put out a report, it's already outdated information because, as said, I mean the situation changes so fast. And also, well, like I said, the lack of accurate numbers is a shortcoming here. So we definitely cannot say any exact numbers on where we are at the moment. But again, still good qualitative summarization here. Then, this is possibly the most impactful thing from the European Union, the framework programs and let's say the funding issues. I mean, if a funder says something, usually something happens also. So we have good let's say experience from the Horizon 2020, and now we are drafting the Horizon Europe framework program. As a big part of that new framework program is the openness, and they actually are proposing more of that, more openness. And it is, as they say, becoming a modus operandi, and it will be required in publications as well as in data. So it's good to be advanced in this open science, because funding will actually require it in the future more and more. And the Finnish stance on this proposal is that in principle we welcome all these new openings of the Horizon Europe framework program to strengthen open science and open innovation, and to reinforce breakthrough innovations and market creating innovations within the framework of commonly agreed principles. Yes, this pretty much summarizes where Finland also is, and notice also that innovation is tagged everywhere here. It's not only research, it's research and innovation. So that's the idea. We want to also get something out of the research outputs, so the innovation cycles and the new thinking in open innovation. So, I mean, it looks good at least. My last points, I want to emphasize something, the recent actions in Finland, something we are doing at the moment. Also, these all have, in one way or another, open science included in there. We have a vision for higher education and research to targeting the year 2030. Open science is there. Very similar than the vision for higher education is the Research and Innovation Council vision and roadmap. They are almost the same text. We have an ethical information policy that came out, and especially tackling the artificial intelligence. And again, here it is noted that there is no artificial intelligence without lots of good quality open data. So we need that to further advance in artificial intelligence. We are updating our national infrastructure in research. We have a development program for that, data management and scientific computing development program. Not going into the details there, but I mean we are very heavily, in addition to that development program, also investing in fair data infrastructure, fair data compatible infrastructure. And also Finland is part of this European High Performance Computing Joint Undertaking, Euro HPC, and here there's a lot of potential. We don't quite know how it will turn out, but they are aiming at having exascale supercomputers. And Finland is part of the joint undertaking, and Finland is also trying to bid. This is not yet happening, but Finland is possibly bidding to become a host of one of the exascale supercomputers. So if that happens, we will have a lot of data, a lot of computer power around the corner, and hopefully also fair data compliant stuff. And so my last point is just to make the note that the Federation of Finnish Learned Societies is in Finland the coordinating organization in open science, and they have good materials online. They have a strategy for open access publications coming out. Possibly we'll hear more about it today. And I just want to emphasize that they are doing a very good job, and we need to do this together so everybody take part in their activities. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sami. Any questions, comments?
Hi everyone, I'm Heidi Line from CSC. I'd like to ask about the upcoming Finnish EU presidency and whether open science is going to be on the agenda in any way.
Very good question. I was almost expecting, and I'm sorry to say I don't have a clear answer to that. But we just last week we heard that the sitting government resigned, and okay, so we are aiming normally towards the elections, and after that we'll know a bit more of the priorities that will pop up. Of course, we have made preparations, and like said, I mean, open science is embedded in everything we do at the moment already. But should we make a bigger case of it? There are good reasons for that, true. But it's up to, let's say, political discussion then. Which of the many priorities we want to emphasize during our presidency.
Other questions? Okay, I have one. So there was different levels in your speech, the commissional level, national level, and then there's organizational level. And there was many, as you said, it's easy to drop the fear there and some other concepts. Who do you think should take care of the monitoring, what's happening in it?
A very good point. At one point, the Commission itself, they commissioned reports to consulting firms from consulting firms. They kind of like bought this outsourced this issue, and at one point in time we had some understanding of where we are, and the used methodology was consistent in some sense. From report to report in some sense, but that stopped, and I have not gotten a good answer to what's next. I mean, at the moment we don't have any numbers, so it would be good to have at least some numbers from one source that is consistent in the methodology, and I would guess that the Commission could be the, let's say, the hub here, instead of all the member states to do themselves, and that would be kind of like a messy thing. But that said, also, I mean, in Finland we are improving in this research information metadata type of thing. We have numbers, some sort of numbers from higher education institutes. That's not the whole country, but that gives something, and it's becoming better and better all the time, so we have some understanding, but we want to do it nationally, and possibly in a few years we'll have a system where we have all this information available on a national level.
Yeah, and we have to remember that we have the parliament election in Finland, but we also have coming EU parliament election, so that might be impacting in some way in the policy making, also in open science.
That's very true. Yes.
Thank you, Sami, and